So I just got outside the Amazon spheres and we're going to take a deep dive into the plants that they're growing there. But I'm a little early, so I'm waiting for Justin, the horticulturist, to take us in. Looks like they're really targeting the corgi dog. So this is Dixonia, and I had asked whether they take these in, because I'd imagine like Seattle gets pretty cold, right? But they actually don't take this in. They just wrap it in burlap, very similar to in the Northeast. If we have a fig tree, like one of those turkey figs, you're supposed to wrap it with burlap if it gets too cold. So I was impressed. The tops of this, they don't just wrap in burlap because that would make the trees basically get all soft and soggy and then just rot from the crown down. So what they decided to do is just wrap it with, make a ball of plastic wrap or the bubble wrap, and they put it on top and then they wrap it in burlap, and that keeps it warm without rotting it. I mean, that's kind of ingenious, but you'd never usually see Dixonia growing in Seattle, Washington. Thanks so much for having me here at the Amazon Spheres.
Well, thanks for coming. We're really excited to have you here.
Well, I want to just get a sense of like how this all started. Like, what was the thinking behind the Spheres?
The Spheres started as an idea, like an alternative workspace. So Amazon, when they started investing in downtown Seattle for their headquarters, one thing that was missing downtown was a link to nature. So they started looking first on our exterior landscapes and how we could like improve those and create what we refer to as like an urban arboretum. So they all have themes and they'll have like interesting plantings that you wouldn't see in a typical urban environment. Then the Spheres was this great idea of, you know, how do we give that nature experience, but every day of the year? You know, being in Washington, Seattle, you don't want to work on your laptop outside all year round.
You can't.
You can't. A day like today proves that. So, you know, this was created as this really great free flow workspace where people just come and sit wherever they like, bring their laptops, come with their colleagues, maybe do a walking meeting, and it's just like a way for people to re-energize and get close to plants and connect with nature. And so yeah, it was a really, really great process.
I think that everybody always says, oh, it'd be so great to live in a greenhouse, but greenhouses are uncomfortable, especially in summer months, but you had to, or the architects had to design this in a way to make it actually cooling for the people here. So can you comment a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the biggest challenges, actually. You know, when you're presented with create this cool indoor tropical garden, that's one of the big things to think about is heat and humidity. You know, nobody wants to work in the middle of the Amazon rainforest on their laptop for extended periods of time. So we actually chose plants that would grow well in the environment that people would work comfortably in. So our daytime temperature is about 72 degrees and about 60% humidity. So, you know, a typical office space is about 35 to 40% humidity. So more humidity, but not drastically more humidity. It's very comfortable to sit and work. You know, it was a challenge. The glass is special. You know, it blocks out all of our UV, almost all of it. We have to bring that back in with our lighting because that's the spectrum that plants need to grow.
Right.
So that was the big key in keeping our heat load down in this giant glass building, is to not let the heat get through the glass. We also use our HVAC system that is constantly turning the air over. It turns all the air over about 6 times an hour, and it cools that and humidifies it as needed. So
yeah, and probably just builds up a little bit more airflow.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what people need and what plants need.
Yeah, people need, plants need. Yeah, the airflow. It's the design and the architecture around it was really brilliant. The way they thought of everything. That's really one of the key things getting on this project for me, was just being able to work with so many just brilliant people on such an innovative and iconic project. It was once in a lifetime.
So how many plants do you actually have, and how many different types of species are you having here?
So right now, on a recent count, we have just over 800 species of plants. We have upwards of 40,000 plants in the building. The bulk of that are on our living walls. Our main living wall, for instance, has about 25,000 individual plants. We do maintain a backup facility which supports the spheres, and we have probably another several tens of thousands of plants. And
in your greenhouse.
In our greenhouse, yeah. And in total, our collection is about 3,500 unique species.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's quite a lot. I mean, was the initial intention to have kind of a diverse ecosystem, or did that kind of develop as you were developing this?
Well, one of the great things on this project, like I said, one of the things that sold me on it was the ability to have some direct input on the direction that we went. And, you know, being able to come in with some direction of, you know, all I really heard in the beginning was not to look like a mall planting. So it wasn't as far as like create this really lush, unique botanical garden, but we were able to do that. And you know, we don't call ourselves a botanical garden, but we partner with a lot of botanical gardens around the country and the world, which really were helpful in building this unique and special collection in a really short amount of time. So you know, it's been fantastic. It's gone through a lot of different iterations over time, and you know, now we're kind of in maintenance mode, and it's been really, really well received. You know, the diversity for me is like really builds the story of being in the jungle or the forest. You know, it's you know, having all these different plants in here and seeing how they would grow in nature is just really, to me, the best way to educate people on these plants. So.
What are some of the main areas and regions of the world that are represented in plant life here?
So we have two main regional areas. Our first floor here, this is all Central and South American plants, high elevation plants. So think about like in the Andes, like, you know, 6,000 to 7,000 feet and above. Things that like it a little cooler. Our night temperature drops pretty low. We go down to the upper 50s at night, which is surprising for a lot of people. And the humidity goes way, way up. We go up to like 85, 90% humidity at night. And then on our second floor is mostly tropical Asian, high elevation tropical Asian plants, things from China and Japan. There's some Thailand, but we do have some Australia and Africa mixed in there too. So we try to hit kind of all the main areas. And then we have a few other things mixed in, but yeah, that's kind of our diversity here. So.
And how do you, I mean, there's so many plants when I look around, and we're gonna go take a deep dive pretty soon as to all of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, and test our binomial nomenclature
Sure.
prowess.
Yeah.
But how do you go about deciding which goes where, and how do you really end up surveying and saying, oh, that's doing well there, or that should be doing better there?
Yeah, I mean, the initial planting was a little bit of just kind of like, all right, we're gonna put some things where we think the light's gonna be good and we think it's gonna be the right little microclimate. And, you know, for the most part, we were right. There are some instances where we've had to move some things around. I'm happy to say we haven't really lost too many plants outright. Wintertime last year, you know, we learned some things. But yeah, it's really just kind of building off of other plants. When I lay it out, I look for textures, I look for colors, I look for things that complement, I look for things that will highlight other things. I got my vision really from just spending as much time in nature as possible. And that's really, you know, nature does it best. So I'm not gonna try to improve on that, I'm just gonna try to recreate that, because nature to most people is really pleasing, to be out in nature and to see things in a natural way. So that's really the driving force behind this, is like, if it looks natural, looks like it could be that way in nature, then it's placed correctly.
Speaking of nature, one of the things as we start to bring plants into our lives comes plant pests. And I'm just curious, especially being in an office environment and not just a botanical environment, what are some of the strategies that you use in order to be able to keep pests at bay?
Yeah, I mean, this is something where I want to like lift the veil a little bit here, because we do get people that come through and like, how do you have no pests? Like, how is it so clean? How does it look so good? We have pests. We spend a lot of time on pests. That's probably one of our main focuses, is keeping our pest populations down. When you have an ecosystem like this that is closed off, you know, you want to create a balanced system. So it's almost impossible to keep pests out. I mean, it really is. I know people strive for that, but it's you know, even with heavy chemicals, which we don't use here in the spheres, it's really not something that's achievable. So we do a lot of beneficial insect releases. And we started doing that even prophylactically, like when we opened. Whether we had the pests or not, we're always adding in beneficial insects so that if those populations do come up, then there's something there to keep them from getting out of control. We'll spray kind of some soap and oil sometimes, but a lot of it's really just hand squishing. Once a week we get in a basket and we drop into our large trees, and we really just inspect them and clean them as needed. And it's always a challenge. Our threshold is plant damage, visible plant damage, or visible pests. So if we can stay below that, then we feel like we're successful.
Yeah, and I guess because you're really honing in on good fertilization, good lighting, good watering. Oftentimes when your plant has a pest anyway, it's still growing well.
Yeah.
And the pests are being kept down because the plant is being more
Yeah,
prolific.
I usually kind of use the analogy of like your tomato plants outside. You're going to find some aphids on them, but a healthy plant's going to be able to survive a small pest population. In fact, a healthy plant will resist pests better than an unhealthy plant. So watering and fertilization is key. We keep our plants, just kind of at a middle nitrogen level where, everything looks green and lush. We're not overfeeding, get a lot of excessive growth. And watering is key. We don't want to stress our plants out from drought situations where they're, constantly going up and down and watering. We just, we hand water everything, which is another thing that I think people are surprised to hear in this space is every morning we spend 2 hours. We have a staff of 5 that come in and hand water everything because everything in here wants a little bit different water.
I have to commend you too, because the way that it's designed to get water on the floor.
Yeah.
You clearly have, I moved that table out for the interview and it's like an outdoor table.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of this indoor-outdoor environment that you could get things a little bit messy.
Yeah, and that was totally by design too. It was really just so like everything can get wet, everything can get hosed off, can get dirty, get clean. It's really meant to feel like you're in a park type setting inside.
Well, I have to say it's really impressive, and I can't wait to dive in floor by floor here too.
Yeah, I am as well. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Keep your eyes peeled, because in the next episodes of Plant One On Me, we'll explore the botanical wonders of the Amazon spheres floor by floor. In the meantime, subscribe and hit the notifications button so you don't miss the episodes. And see what's happening on my Instagram at Homestead Brooklyn, and my latest events, tours, and news on my blog at homesteadbrooklyn.com.